Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is Batman Noël. Now, Noël is a graphic novel written and illustrated by Lee Bermejo, published by DC Comics, and of course featuring the character of Batman, who was originally created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. Now, this is a Christmas-themed Batman story, so of course I'm reviewing it in February because I'm complicated like that. Now, this was published in 2011, and this is a retelling of the classic Charles Dickens novel, A Christmas Carol, and characters from A Christmas Carol do show up in this, specifically Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim. And Batman ends up playing the role of Ebenezer Scrooge. Now, I do want to point out that there already was a Christmas Carol-inspired Batman comic in the 90s, which was written by Jeff Loeb and was published in Jeff Loeb's collection, Batman Haunted Night, only that one was Halloween-themed. So, the plot of Noël is it follows Bob Cratchit and his son Tim. Obviously, these are sort of modernized versions of these characters, and Bob needs the money, so he ends up working for none other than the Joker himself. And his job is to deliver a package for the Joker, but then Batman intervenes, and without Bob even realizing it, Batman is going to use him as live bait for the Joker. But while spying on Bob and his son, Batman ends up running a severe fever, and he ends up seeing a vision of Jason Todd, who is the second Robin who was killed by the Joker years earlier. And Jason Todd is obviously supposed to represent Jacob Marley. Later on, Batman ends up running into Catwoman, who ends up representing the Ghost of Christmas Past. Then he runs into Superman, who ends up representing the Ghost of Christmas Present, and then when he runs into the Joker represents the Ghost of Christmas Future. And the whole point of the graphic novel is Batman has become so cold-hearted that this could lead to his downfall, and it could also negatively impact the lives of his allies. And in the story, Batman, much like Ebenezer Scrooge, has to regain his lost compassion. Now, this comic, much like the classic Charles Dickens novel, does definitely deal with themes of class. Like, Batman is so quick to judge Bob Cratchit for working for the Joker, yet he never takes into account that this man was probably desperate for the money. And of course, anybody familiar with the Batman mythos would realize that Batman is actually billionaire Bruce Wayne, who was born into that family, so he's never had to worry about money a day in his life. Now, I'm not saying being desperate for money justifies working for a psychopath like the Joker, but part of Batman's arc in this story is him starting to understand it a little bit more and understand why a person would be pushed to doing that. Again, the story is really about Batman learning compassion or regaining compassion. Now, I want to give a few words on Lee Bermejo's artwork in this. I'm honestly a pretty big fan of his art. He also illustrated the Brian Azzarello graphic novel Joker. And I like how in some of the flashbacks in this, even though we're flashing back to Jason Todd, the artwork in the flashbacks is almost drawn to look a little bit like the artwork from like the 50s and 60s Batman comics, which of course were what inspired the Adam West Batman show. Like, it's almost drawn like that, only slightly more serious. Like, it's Batman reflecting back on a time when things were simpler. But then the stuff taking place in present day is definitely a lot darker and a little more Nolan-esque, I guess you could say. So yeah, I would recommend Batman Noël if you're a Batman fan, but also if you're a fan of the Christmas Carol story. And Merry Christmas, even though it's February.